Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Lenko show with the Lenko Bros, formerly known as the place to go when there is nowhere else for you to go. I am Chris, and we are with my brother Alex. Say hello.
Evening. Well, it's not evening for everyone, is it? I was say evening, Chris. And hello to everybody listening. Hope you've enjoyed the previous few shows as well, by the way, with obviously Jason Scott, and then our little chat about discipline from episode number 14, and then Tom Blay, episode number 15 as well. Very, very interesting. So hopefully you've enjoyed all that. I will remind everybody that our questionnaire form from the discipline episode, so if you go into the show notes from there and into the description, there should be a link to a form. You can complete that, and we will provide you with some specific feedback around an area that you might be struggling with. So if you haven't done that yet and you want to take us up on that offer, we will be doing that over the next, well, probably throughout January, unless we're all of a sudden inundated with like 1,000 responses. But we'll see if that happens.
That would be phenomenal. If that happens, I will deliberately ensure that I respond to every single one of them.
Right, let's keep Chris busy then. So if you're listening to this, send it in and Chris will sort you out. Still waiting for a positive discussion around the news as well. So if anyone wants to write something positive and insightful, then please do so.
Brilliant. So today, everyone, we've got a treat. So I've decided, obviously, Alex is usually the host. Traditionally, he is the older, somewhat smarter, potentially more competent Lenkowski, but today we are going to be asking him a few questions. Now, if you are watching on YouTube, you will see that he's in all right shape.
I'm fettle, I'll have you know.
if you
go on.
I was going to say, if you're not watching on YouTube, if you are one of the 3 very special in our heart viewers, listening to just the podcast and you can only hear our voices, then if I just describe him to you quickly. So he
Mark, be very careful with your next few words. I'll tell Mum.
Imagine a tin of red kidney beans in human form. That's with some blonde hair. No, I would say you're in good shape. Do you know, just to whittle on quickly before we get some information out of you about how you get into good shape. I remember
when I was fat.
Well, no, so I was going to say, so the legend told of a younger Lenkowski who was like the leaner of the Lenko Bros, and I remember one day, I can't remember if this happened at Total Fitness Preston, but either way, you come in one day and we were training, and you told me that you'd been halving your granola for like, I don't know how long. I don't know how long. And I was like, are you joking? Why are you doing that? And you're like, it's getting me leaner. I was like, are you joking? I remember you were getting changed for your workout and you were shredded with a 6-pack. I was like, and all you've done is halved your granola.
Yeah, man, that's literally all that was holding me back. Too much granola with. Do you know what? Actually, at the time, and this is a really great recipe if someone wants to cheat meal, but at the time it was something like the Kellogg's chocolate granola, so there's like little chocolate chunks in there as well, along with a load of frozen mixed berries, obviously melt and soften up because you leave them overnight, and then I think I chucked in some, might have been Nutella mixed with Greek yogurt or something like that. And that was like a combination that I had for probably for a fair while. And then, realized I was getting podgy, so decided to reduce it. And then altogether, eventually after that, got rid of it. That was how I reduced my calorie intake and ultimately got a little bit leaner.
I love it. So, I mean, even before we've actually like delved into the depths of your principles behind nutrition, etc., we already have something to take away in order to get leaner.
Yeah, just reduce your granola.
There you go. If you don't currently have any granola, you need to start having a little bit of granola and then in a month or so, you start reducing it.
Well, it's like anything, isn't it? Like, you know, if you are a bit overweight, just reduce your pizza intake. You know, maybe just have one pizza rather than two.
Who's having 2 pizzas? Is that why you felt like you were getting a little bit overweight?
Yeah, I do normally. So if we are doing pizza and it's like a make your own pizza, I will get 2 pizzas.
Hmm.
But I
Nice.
feel like this is one thing where, like when I did work in the gym, whenever I went down to buy, you know, loads of food, or like I would invariably buy 2 lunches because like one of them was like a panini with a bit of salad, and then the other one I'd have, you know, a cooked omelette with, you know, a load of chicken or ham and cheese or something in it. So it was essentially 2 meals in one. And you know, the general reaction I would get from whoever was serving me would be like, should you be having all that? And I'm like, well, yeah, I've earned the right to do this through all the activity and everything that I've done. You know, if anyone should be having it, it's fucking me.
You have to apologise to our younger listeners out there.
Oh God.
Alex uses profanity. Sorry, Mum. She's our one listener. Well, actually, you know what? That story ties in quite nicely to some of the questions that I'm going to ask you. So we are going to delve into what you do specifically for food. But just before that, we're going to go with what are your core principles that you live to day by day?
So this is something that started quite a few years ago when I was at university, probably all that bit, but almost like 10 years ago now, when I first started going to uni. And the main thing for me at the time was like, the lifestyle I was living, I was pretty much, you know, walking to the gym twice a day, going down to the American football field, kicking, training, running around, going to lectures, going home, eating, and then going to bed. And, you know, that was pretty much my lifestyle because the vision at the time, the goal was to, you know, try to make it to college in America and hopefully go beyond that and play in the NFL. And the video that I was watching at the time and the person I was listening to that kind of got me hooked and that really resonated with me was one by Eric Thomas, which was Take No Days Off. And I think the big thing from the video was it was along the lines of, you know, if you know what it feels like when you can't breathe, if you want success as badly as you want to breathe, then you'll be successful. And from being someone who's got asthma, and I have been in situations where I've been unable to breathe, unable to kind of medicate and recover quickly from like having a bit of an asthma attack. And, you know, I'm not even talking about like a bit of a panic attack where, you know, you get a bit of shortness of breath and, you know, a little bit stressed out. This is like a genuine inflammation of the airway, which restricts your ability to breathe. And, you know, I've had that pretty much my entire life as a kid growing up. And it isn't pleasant. And I know exactly what it feels like. So from that point on, I've always kind of been able to stay calm when things aren't going very well. Like if you can't breathe, you know, ironically, the one thing that you should probably panic about, panicking never helps anything. It will never solve anything, never has, never will, unless you're in a competition for panicking. So the main thing is just staying relaxed. And, you know, because I know what it feels like to not be able to breathe, I understand the kind of desire required to go and do the things that are necessary and put yourself out there and go and, you know, kind of tackle things head on. So for me, it's that's the one principle that kind of oversees everything else, because it's a trigger. You think, well, what are your principles? And you could probably write a book on it. Well, that's no good to you in the moment when, you know, when you really need to call on it and you need to count on something quickly. You need something that's short, concise, memorable, and packs a bit of a punch and puts you in a different state and a different mindset and instantly flips you so that you can move forward and go and do things. So for me, the 4 words, take no days off, that's the core principle. That's the bit that drives everything else. And then, you know, so that was pretty much 10 years ago. So I'd be thinking about that, listening to that on my way into the gym, on, you know, any time that I'm training, any time that, you know, I was in bed, maybe didn't want to get up early, didn't feel like going to the gym. That'd be the one thing where I thought, right, come on, let's go. And since then, you know, it's pretty much been a case of working with clients, working with the general population, training people for sports performance. You know, if you're training for sports performance, that take no days off doesn't mean, you know, like I used to think it meant, going into the gym twice a day, like essentially training 3 times a day, going down onto the field, doing running sessions. You know, it doesn't mean that. Like, you need to train smart. And that's where I learned how to do that to a better degree, to put the right things in your training plan so you've got the ability to recover. Because at that point for me, I was pretty much beat yourself, break yourself down, beat yourself up, create high level of durability, which ultimately didn't work, because I ended up getting like patellar tendonitis in both knees, and, you know, had a few other injury issues, not just impact related from playing American football, but just, you know, whether it was tendinous or muscular. And I was essentially ruining myself. So there is a smarter way to go about your training, but when you take rest days, when you don't go into the gym or you don't go running, what else are you doing? Because you're always working on yourself. You're always trying to improve yourself, and you're always trying to do something that's going to make you better. Like, I don't think you should ever go through a single day where you've done absolutely nothing to improve your position in life and who you are as a person, and ultimately like what you're leaving behind, who you're influencing, who you're impacting, who you're helping, and the people closest to you. So from that point, it's, what are you learning? What are you studying? What you're reading? How are you eating? Is your nutrition on point? Is your recovery on point? Are you stretching? Are you meditating? Are you taking 5 minutes to focus on your breathing, focus on your mentality, just check in with how you're actually feeling, and maybe, you know, engage in a bit of self-awareness and look at your position in life. Maybe it's doing some goal setting. Maybe it's setting some new targets for tomorrow or for next week, or through your training block, just analyzing and kind of overseeing what comes next in your training plan. There is always something you can do to move yourself forward and put yourself in the best position possible. And to expand on that, I'm sorry, I will let you talk again, Chris.
A tippy tip.
I know you're like kind of sat there thinking, when's he going to shut up? So to expand on that, and because that's not always the message that the public, it's not the message you want to hear. You don't want to hear about this fucking, you've got to train, you've got to be on it every single day, your training plan has to have a purpose and blah, blah, blah. It's not about that. You know, if you take some of the other scenarios that occur in life, and believe me when I say this, I've been through things and I've seen things and been witness to things where, you know, you wouldn't wish them on anybody. So when you're in a privileged position of being compos mentis, being fit, being healthy, or, you know, even just being self-aware, with, you know, nothing wrong with you, like you're not injured, you're not broken, you've not got cancer, you've not got any other health conditions that are going to terminally end your life, you know, because we are on this earth for a limited time span. If you're sat around taking days off, for me, that's spitting in the faces of everybody else who is in a horrendous situation like that. We should be taking advantage of every single day and living to our fullest and living true to ourselves, because we don't get this again. You know, the one thing that I said this during Jason Scott's podcast, where we were talking about, you know, when you're losing at halftime and everyone's at each other's throats, things aren't going well. You know, the one thing that he said was, gentlemen, it's life. No one gets out of this alive. And we don't. We're all going to end up in the same situation at some point. So How are we going to fill the space in between?
You know what? Just to fill the space in between there, I don't suppose Jason Scott had to make that speech very many times. I can't remember many times where you were losing at half time, were there? I feel like you went on like a 4-year win streak, didn't you, with Tamworth Phoenix?
Well, this is my whole point. Like, we had some very, very good times, and the good times you can roll with them, but it's in the good times where you've really got to double down because it's pretty much effortless. And then, once you do that, once you do enjoy the good times, when the tough times roll around, it's habit. Your winning nature, your desire, your thinking, your mentality, everything that you've learned because you still went to work and you chopped wood, carried water on the days that you didn't have to do it. They are the bits that add up to you being able to perform when everything's gone tits up, when everything's at its worst, because you continue to do the basics and do the right things during the times that it was good. That adds up to your success on those down days. And I mentioned a book that Chop Wood, Carry Water, I think written by Joshua Medcalf. Really, really good short story. I'd recommend that for everybody. Go read that. Understand how everything you do, anything you touch, you are building your own life. You're developing yourself as a person, and that impacts on everything. You won't see it now, but 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 15, 20, that's the actions that you've taken every single day will add up to your end position.
So just to, I guess, recap and summarize there, the core principle that you spoke about was taking no days off, not necessarily just working out all the time, but if you're not on a training day, what are you doing to drive yourself forward regardless?
Yep.
Yeah.
No days off ever.
Because
there are some people going through situations where, and I speak about this from the bottom of my heart, where for anyone who is currently suffering from a terminal illness, or if you know someone who's suffering with cancer or struggling with cancer or has been diagnosed, or, I think 1 in 3 of us know someone who has been affected by cancer at some point. I reckon it's probably more than that now. I reckon there's more than 33% of the population that have been in touch with someone close to them that's either had or got cancer. And, whenever you're going through treatment for that, when do you get a day off? Like, you can bet bottom dollar, and I know this from going through injuries and going through rehabilitation, is that, whatever it is you're struggling with, whatever your demon is, whether it is cancer or an injury or something that you've got to go and tackle in your personal life, you go to bed, you wake up the next day, it's still there. It hasn't gone anywhere, and it's going to keep on coming for you. So the one thing that you need to do is double your efforts and attack it. Go after it. Pursue everything to your best ability. And this is something we're both very, very big on this. We know we've both been through circumstances that we're not going to go into, but we know things that happen to people, and, we've heard from clients firsthand, and, you just think some people just need a break. But if you're sat there at the minute and you're listening to this and you're thinking, I just wish life would give me a break, it will, but you've got to keep going. Like, I always think about it this way. If you're in the middle of a battlefield, like, imagine if we were in the Middle Ages and you went to war and you got sword and shield and battles going on around you, everyone's fighting. You taking a break or taking a day off and doing nothing to eat, whether it's spending time with your family, reading, whatever, that's pretty much putting your shield down, putting your sword down, putting your feet up and going, yeah, what happens, happens. What do you think is going to happen? Nothing good is going to come of that. So whatever your troubles are, pick up your shit and let's go.
You know what I frequently think about, potentially to a detrimental degree? I frequently think, if you perform let's say you've got a scale from 0 to 100, because that's usually the case when we're working with percentages. If you go 90%, rather than 100. So let's say you do something suboptimally, which I guess in this case is, let's say you do something productive 6 days of the week and then have the 7th day off because you didn't quite feel right, whatever. It's not necessarily always the case, but let's just roll with it. Your new 100% cannot possibly be the same original 100%. And the compound effect of that. So let's say you gave, let's say there's 52 weeks in a year. Let's say you did 30 of those weeks were suboptimal and you weren't performing in a way that you knew that you should. Whatever you're going toward. And I don't just mean like you only gave 80% out of 100% in a workout. I mean, like, you're not quite doing the things you know you should be doing. And then for the other 22, you did. There's 30 weeks worth of percentages that you've now declined your, I guess, potential. Does that make sense? So if you could have got to 100%, every single time that you didn't do 100% or perform 100% in terms of your effort, etc., you're now moving yourself further and further and further and further away from what that potentially could have been.
Yeah.
I think that's probably a clearer way to describe it.
So,
I think about that a lot.
We could call that, we're pretty much just making that up on the spot, aren't we? But if you call that your effort capacity, if you never push to 100%, you're never ever going to get there, or your 100% will diminish and it becomes just less and a lower standard.
Yeah, I guess that's a better way of describing it.
Is that what you meant?
Yeah, but I mean, I said 100%, like you always need to be 100%, which obviously just isn't the case, because if you give 100% today, you can't possibly give 100% tomorrow. But in terms of like applying effort where you need to apply effort and then not applying effort where you should be applying effort, the potential still diminishes in the long term. Okay. Anyway, so we've got point 1 there was take no days off. Is there any other core principles that you abide by?
I think so. There's the take no days off, and then below that,
there's a hierarchy of the core principles.
Oh, there 100% there is always a hierarchy.
So at the kind of foundational level of Alex Lenkowski is TNDO. Just above that. No, that also, yeah. I get it. I'm coming at it from a different angle. I was looking at it top down like a cherry tree. So take no days off. Yeah.
And then the next thing is very, very simple. You just don't quit. Don't quit. Don't ding the bell. You know, if for those of you who are familiar with Navy SEALs training,
ring the bell.
The one thing that you are required to do to drop out and end it all is take your helmet off, put your helmet on the ground, ring the bell 3 times, and you're done. That's it. No more torture, no more pain, no more misery. And you know, for anyone that's going through probably a tough time mentally, especially at the moment with the number of lockdowns and the repeated kind of toing and froing with guidance, what you can and can't do, not being able to play sport, being able to play sport, not being able to train, this kind of merry-go-round that we're on, I think it's very, very easy to kind of lose yourself with that and think, well, there's no purpose. What am I doing it all for? Ultimately, in down tools, ring the bell and stop trying. And for me, I think that's something that I will never, ever consciously decide to quit. I think there's a quote from Will Smith. I think it was Will Smith. Someone might have said it before him and he might have borrowed it and pinched it and used it somewhere else. But, you know, it's the whole thing of, you know, if you're on a treadmill and I'm on a treadmill and we're racing, there are 2 things that are 2 options of what's going to happen. Either you're getting off first or I'm going to die. And it's that kind of attitude that I think if you apply that to pretty much everything you do in terms of giving your best effort and refusing to kind of lie down and accept defeat. And in a way, I don't know whether I should mention this in a way or not, but you're gonna laugh at this. Everyone, like, if you're in your car, prepare yourself for this. In a way, I think Donald Trump is a very prominent example of this at the moment, where you do not quit, albeit he's very much divides opinion. I've spoken to people who love him. I've spoken to people who hate him, and the one thing that I do think that he's got going on, as crazy as he might seem, he's not willing to lie down, he's not willing to give up, and he's not willing to quit. And when you've got that kind of mentality, if you apply that to sport, business, relationships, anything that you value in your life, you will have a good outcome. If you consistently push and drive yourself and move beyond obstacles and challenges when they come up, your end result is going to be far, far better than someone that walks away. I mean, we've seen, I've always seen, there's tons of this shit, but multiple memes where, there might be two people digging underground in a tunnel, and you've got one person who is kind of like on the verge, and I mean on the absolute cusp of hitting the jackpot, and they just kind of put the spade down and just walk off. They think, I'm never going to get there, because you can't see where the finish line is. You can't see where you're, like, if you think about where's your big break going to come from, you can't see it. You don't know. Like, it's pure guesswork, and it just requires you to keep on digging, keep on going, keep on moving forwards. So if you quit, if you give up, if you down your tools, what positive outcome is there going to be from that? You're going to be left with nothing. And what I would say is you've got to be sensible in your application of that, because there are some things where you are definitely digging down a loose end, and you have to recognize where the opportunities are. If you are required to cut something else off to pursue something better and pursue something bigger, this is where it has to tie into your goals hierarchy. So just because you end one of those goals to pursue another one doesn't necessarily mean you failed. It just means you're trying a different way to make it work, which is fine, because you're always working towards that overarching purpose. The problem is when you stop trying to hit those little boxes that could lead up into that, that is quitting. That is quitting. That is giving up. So your ultimate failure will come when you are no longer endeavoring and attempting to pursue the things that will lead into your ultimate purpose as a person.
Don't ring the bell.
Okay.
Don't ring the bell. So we have two parts of what could be a pyramid. We have take no days off. Don't ring the bell. Is there anything else? Any other core principles?
No. So then from that one, it kind of filters into a few little ones.
Okay.
So it's 1 and 1. It's a weird formation. 5-a-side. No, it's not. 6-a-side. Basically, train, eat, and learn. Focus on your, like, what encompasses you being in good health, and what is it you want? What is good health to you? What's your standard around that? If it's being strong, being able to hit certain lifts, hit certain targets, run at a certain speed, cover a certain distance in a certain time, run a 5K sub 20 minutes, things like that. Whatever your targets are, if that defines fitness for you, good. Go and hit those. Go and be fit, go and be healthy. Do the things that are required to get your physical body in position to do what it is you want to do. So if you think of your own physical being, I actually quite like this. So your physical body is simply a vessel and a tool to do the work of your spirit, which is your mind, your brain. So your consciousness that's always ticking is basically an instructor telling the physical thing, the physical soft, mushy goo of bone, muscle, tendon, etc., to go and do something. So make sure you're fit for purpose. I think if I was to really summarize that, it's your body is a tool. You know, be physically competent.
I was just thinking, I realised we had a podcast, so I wasn't going to say it, but I am going to say it because this was my thought process. When you said that, I thought you're a tool. No, I like that. I've just made a note of that. The physical body is a tool to perform the work of the spirit / the mind.
Correct.
I like that. So we've got take no days off.
Take no days off. Never quit. You are a tool.
You are. I like it. You'll never forget that one, Mum. If you're listening, you won't ever forget that. Do you know what? I was thinking when you said about don't ring the bell and take no days off. Do you know what? It reminded me of something I thought about when we first started our kayaking experience, which obviously we don't like thinking about too often. But I would say your approach to things like that, and I think this is where we differ slightly, is you're quite happy to embrace the challenge and everything that comes with it and just get stuck in and just do and learn whilst doing, and going in 100% right from the off. All right.
Literally into the river. Into
literally
the water.
So within 0.0001 of challenge being started, you're there doing exactly whatever it's supposed to be. I think for me, I think, and this is where we differ slightly, whilst I do still do that, I'm slower with that. I like to learn the technical aspect as to how to kind of be. I feel like I want to say perfectionist, but I almost don't want to say perfectionist. But what will make me really, really, really good at that specific thing? Does that make sense? And I was thinking our first kayak session was a perfect example because you were straight in, which was funny.
Literally
obviously.
Straight in. So for people listening, think wide person gets into very narrow vessel. Wide person is shitting themselves in the very narrow vessel and holding on to the side for dear life.
Narrow vessel is also very, very unstable.
Yes. So think of an elephant trying to balance on a Bosu ball or a Swiss ball. That's pretty much what it's like on one leg.
In water.
On
muddy water.
Now, so if you've ever been ice skating, now I can do a bit of ice skating. I'm not bad at it. And this is another perfect example of just what I will go and do. So put me in ice skates, put me on an ice skate or put me in an ice rink, set me off, and I'll find a way to get moving. Then what I will try and do is go as fast as I possibly can.
Yeah. Now, so that's what I was going to say next.
At this point in time, whilst I'm flying down the ice rink, going as fast as I possibly can, at a fair speed, I am not worried about stopping because my method of stopping is to simply crash into the advertising boards at the side of the rink and practically ruin my ribs. Now, this isn't a problem. I don't mind this because as long as I'm moving quickly and going hard at it, not a problem. I'm having a great time. And I think this is probably the main difference between me and you, isn't it?
What? It depends what you're about to say.
Where I'll just go hell for leather and cause complete and utter carnage, whereas you're a little bit more methodical, a little bit more careful about the process, and a little bit more precise with your
I was literally about to say, with the kayaking thing, my approach was, and I'm going to tell you what I thought yours was. Mine was, how do I get very, very good at kayaking in a very short space of time so that I have the best chance of doing this challenge? Yours, I thought, was, how do I complete the DW race and beat everyone?
Yeah,
you were just like, the goal is to do 125 miles in 24 hours. How do I do it in 10 hours? Whereas I was like, how do I become very, very good at kayaking and have all the necessary components? You was like, get me to the other end of this river within the next 10 minutes.
You might remember this conversation we had. I think we were on WhatsApp with it. But when we were first talking about doing this, I think I said to you that ultimately it's an aim to finish it first off. And I said it's like, if you can do it sub 24 hours, that's great. and then we got to the point where you had to get to the Teddington locks and onto the Thames before a certain cutoff point, or you couldn't finish it. So I was like, right, well, we have to get to there as within this time limit. So we have to be able to do that. And I think that was something like 70 or 80 miles. It was somewhere in between that, where you had to cover that distance and you had to get to those locks before the tide on the Thames changed. Otherwise, you're essentially paddling upriver, which was going to be virtually and a very bad idea. Whilst very fatigued, very cold, very wet, and probably not in a good mood. So we've gone through that process. And then I think I said to you, so by the way, the course record is something like 16 or 17 hours or something like that. And bear in mind that this was something where Steve Redgrave had tried it a few years ago. And I think he pulled out due to fatigue. So it was like a former Olympian, probably one of our greatest of all time, had pulled out of this challenge for whatever reason. Like, there were multiple things that could go wrong over that kind of distance. And I was genuinely thinking, like, what do you reckon? Do you reckon course record? Should we have it? Like, we'd been in a kayak for about 3 months, and I was like, what are we saying? But yeah, I remember being sat in the boat thinking, right, how can I go as fast as possible? Or what's the fastest I can go? And you'll remember the time where we were about 5 miles up river. There was no real clear banking or anything like that. And I thought, right, I'm going to go for it. I'm feeling good. Let's see how fast I can go. And it was turning dark, and I managed to capsize the boat. Couldn't swim to the side because there was no way for me to get out. So I'm kind of floating in the river, hanging onto the boat and the paddle for dear life, until you came turtling along just at your steady cruising pace, going. And I can't imagine what was going on in your head, but for me, you were kind of going, oh dear, oh, what a situation we have here.
That is 100% what I was doing.
And then I was just thinking, Chris, just find me somewhere where I can get out and turn the boat around.
Yeah, honestly, I was annoyed at you for trying to go as fast as you could. I thought, I knew you were going to do something stupid like that. You couldn't have done it 4 miles back that way. You had to do it.
Yeah, but for me, like, steeper the learning curve, the better. And I think this is where, like, I think this is probably a really good point for us to finish on, because that kind of mentality, that kind of attitude that's just something that I seem to naturally have. And I actually enjoy it. I actually enjoy that kind of thought that I am that kind of person that will just go headfirst into something, and almost like, the steeper the learning curve, the better. But a book I've been reading out of necessity, Surrounded by Idiots, by a guy called Thomas Erickson. Now, this is something that I pretty much knew about it and knew more or less what it was before I bought it. I didn't buy it because I think I'm surrounded by idiots. Like, that's simply not the case. I know I generally try to surround myself with very smart, positive people that are full of energy and, believe in kind of like the same things as me. So this was more so like trying to understand human behavior and what drives us, what makes us tick. And we've got a very dominant personality, whether it's, I'll see if I'll pick them out. I'll go through them for you. So there's the 4 colors: red, yellow, green, and blue. red is dominant, and that's kind of the very, in a favorable environment, very aggressive, very might come across as angry or a bit of a dick. If you've currently got a job and you're not on furlough, or maybe you think of a boss that you've had previously, if they were very, very short with you, very to the point, very brutal in their feedback, that's a red type personality. I am that kind of person. And I think, especially, growing up, I was probably always thought of as being angry, but I don't feel angry. Like, I genuinely don't feel like I really don't. I think and I don't feel like I'm angry. I don't feel like I'm negative. I actually see everything in a very positive light, and it's just almost just determination of, right, what can we do to get going forwards? How can we get this thing moving? How can we look at making progress? What can we do to push on? And it's that relentless pursuit of, like, let's go. And that's pretty much just my main personality type. I could show you my disc scores after this, but my disc score in favorable environments is 99 and red. 99.
Is it?
99D. That's me.
See, I was 99I, I believe. I don't remember what it was. Was I
yellow? So that's the next one. So I, yellow, inspiring, which means that you're inspiring, stimulating, enthusiastic, dramatic, and outgoing. So your personality type is slightly different, which probably means that we might tend to argue a little bit. So we have to bear that in mind when we're speaking to each other. But that's just the way it is. So, and whatever your dominant personality is going to determine how you kind of tackle new challenges and how you respond, especially. So as a yellow type person, you'll be very, very good at coming up with ideas, motivating people, going off emotion and feeling, and the detail, the analysis, the nitty gritty bits are generally missing. The next one, green, stable. And this is important because these people just like everything as it is. They like speaking with other people, chatting about things, relationships. Like, they think, if you're doing a business deal, let's go and have a coffee and a cup of tea and chat about the football first. Whereas, and this is quite funny. So my initial reaction is very much the opposite of that. That's what red type personality is. It's the opposite. So whenever someone sends me a text going, hi, how are you? Can I have da-da-da-da? I just go, yeah, you can have it. Like, my first thought, I actually have to stop before I send it, go back, reread it and go, oh, they actually asked me how I was. And I have to make a conscious decision to say, yeah, I'm good, thanks. How are you doing? And that personable side is a very different aspect in terms of communication. So if you're a green, your positive attributes are that you are supportive, respectful, obliging, reliable, and pleasant.
Pleasant.
So if you're a green, you're not very likely to go and just seek out challenges and deal with things that come up out of the blue. Like, it's not suitable, it's not favorable to who you are as a person. So you generally don't particularly enjoy that and you don't respond to it. Normally very good at taking instruction though. The blue is analytical. So you'll recognize this person. They probably work in engineering or accounting. And I'm thinking of our uncle, this kind of thing. Very particular, very pernickety, every single detail, facts and figures for everything. And if you try and motivate them and get them G'd up with emotion, don't work. Can't make a decision about anything either, by the way. Their follow through and pushing things forward doesn't really happen. So, but the positive attributes that blue people have, or analytical people have, is they are diligent, thoughtful, serious / persistent, demanding, and methodical. So when I think about my uncle in this respect, the negatives, and I will read these out because I know Sue probably listens. But if you're a blue, or you know someone who is a blue, bear in mind this person is critical, indecisive, and narrow-minded. Someone you know? So the whole kind of reason I wanted to go through that was that because we all have different personality types, that means we have different ways in which we handle pressure situations or adversity or new challenges. So my approach, my principles there that I've gone through in terms of take no days off, don't quit, blah, 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 you know, they might not be suitable or useful for everybody. But I would like to think, for anyone that's listening to this podcast, hopefully you're listening to it for a reason, because you want to feel positive, energized, and like you can tackle and take on anything. If that's the situation, then there must be something within that. Take no days off, do something every day to improve yourself, you know, look after your physical well-being, your mental well-being, and don't quit, don't stop, be relentless. That would be, you know, the key word that I throw in there.
Yeah, I think a good way to summarize and to, I guess, leave with that point is, like, if you were to look at that as a recipe. So let's say you'd never met this person before and you required a person to achieve a goal. And the description was, this person doesn't take days off, i.e. they're very driven. They don't ring the bell, i.e. they refuse to give up. And they are a bit of a tool, i.e. they use their body as a tool to achieve whatever goals they're set out to achieve. You would look at that and you go, person sounds pretty decent. Sounds like they're probably going to achieve whatever goal they need to achieve.
Yeah.
So if you aren't really those things, it doesn't mean that you're not deep down those things. It just means that you could still be them. Try implementing one of the three.
So the thing to bear in mind with those colours that I've read out is we generally have a mix of between 1 and 3 of those colours. We're never all 4, but we can be anywhere between 1 and 3 of those in terms of our personality. So there are traits that we can take from each one and apply them to any situation. Now, if you're in charge of a team or you've got a staff underneath you and you've got a project that needs completing, here's the suggestion, right? This is how it works. Get the red person to be in charge. They will boss people around and they'll make shit happen. Get the yellow person to do the team talk. Like, they're the motivator, they're the inspiration, they're the ideas person. Use them for the creativity. Get the greens to balance everything. Get them to speak and engage with the yellows. Get them to speak and engage and get as much as they can from the reds, and keep that kind of core stability, and use them to do things. Get them to work the project and make, you know, you kind of have to motivate the greens quite a lot to get them to do anything, but they will do it. And then the final piece of the puzzle, go and take the information and the facts and the figures and the data, give it to the blue person, let them handle it. And that's pretty much how you can get, you know, there is a role for everybody, and the perfect personality would be all 4 in balance, but it doesn't happen. Never has, never will. So this is the whole point, where you do need people around you to help balance you out and give you those pickups in areas where you don't have them, and give jobs to the right people. So yes, I hope that's been useful.
I like it. I feel like I've learned from it anyway. So now, we did actually have a few more questions. We'll condense this down. I'm just going to ask maybe 2 more questions, and then we can close there. And then the other questions, which are more specific to training and nutrition, how you utilize those principles with those things, and how they affect the people around you as well, and how you go about training people specifically, and how you go about coaching them nutrition wise. We'll go through that in a part 2. So, Mum, if you're listening, check in for part 2. So the next question then is, and you know what, really, you have kind of answered it, and I think anyone who's been listening very carefully will kind of have an understanding of this, even though you've not necessarily said the exact words.
Well, let's see if I can remember what I said.
Okay, well, here's a little challenge then. So what is it specifically that drives your core principles? So your little 6-a-side squad, your TNDO, you don't ring the bell, you're using yourself as a tool, train, eat, learn. What is driving those core principles?
So if I was to summarize it, my number one thing is be useful. Be useful to somebody. And that's something, and I say that in the simplest terms because that's something that everybody can do. You know, we've all got people around us who are possibly dependent or reliant on us for something. So go and fulfill your purpose and be useful for something. Be good at something. Master your craft. Go and, you know, provide energy, enthusiasm. You know, get your head stuck into things and contribute. And, you know, kind of the two key spiritual needs, which you'll know from Tony Robbins, are growth and contribution. So if you can grow and develop yourself and contribute and give back to other people, you are pretty much fulfilling the highest purpose there is. So, yeah, be useful.
Be useful. Be useful. And then finally, and we've also touched on this as well, we've also had a couple of stories about it, but what are the problematic scenarios caused by your core principles? What sort of situations can you get yourself into? Obviously, you've said that you're a red personality, which means that people will generally perceive you as being angry, dominant, maybe a bit overbearing.
Do you want me to go through my pitfalls? I'll tell you exactly what they are.
Go on, let's hear it.
My pitfalls: pushy, strict, tough, dominant, and hard. Now, there's a couple of those that I don't think are negatives, but
I was going to say that's not really that bad. I recall, so we did a quiz. I wonder if I can find it quickly. We did a quiz for the end of year for our clients, a Zoom quiz because we were locked down, and I recall. So in one of the slides, I wrote. Well, actually, I did it to quite a few people because I'm that kind of guy. But I was using. Do you remember the balconies and basements?
yes,
As in the traits in your Gallup strength.
yeah.
So the question was, who is this strength profile describing? So, for example, I'll have brought up one of my team's balcony traits, which is, so essentially, for people who don't really understand, obviously, as Alex just described it, you've got the, I guess, positive aspects to whatever personality you are, but people can always perceive those in a negative light. People won't always see them as strengths. Some people might perceive them as being things that affect them negatively, etc. And I think a lot of them was like for mine, I think mine was limp-wristed, namby-pamby, wishy-washy. Yours don't actually sound too bad. Yours sound okay, to be fair. But okay, so are there any other specific scenarios that you see them get yourself into? Obviously, we've mentioned you go headfirst into challenges and therefore get your head dunked underwater a few times.
Many things. So you'll recall when we were young kids and we got rollerblades for Christmas, and
it's a good one. It's another good story.
So where our grandma lives it's on a hill, and she is named Grandma on the Hill
because of said hill.
The Grandma on the Hill. And you know, I believe what we were doing, we were packing up to go home. We must have
no. We were packing up to go home. You were doing something else.
So we were about 7 or 9. I think I was I in year 5 or 6 of school? Either way, I was a young lad. And we got these rollerblades for Christmas and we were about to go home. So I thought, right, well, this is my last chance. I'm going to see how far up the driveway I can get. Think like Eddie the Eagle style ski slope jumping maneuver. And I managed to pretty much work myself up to the top of the drive. I've been told numerous times that, come on, stop that now, it's time to go. And it was always met with the reaction of, oh no, come on, one more.
Can I just add, you were also told specifically not to rollerblade up the hill.
Yeah, but either way, it happened. So anyway, the next step was to, obviously, once I found myself right at the very top, was to find my way back down and, set off from the top. And there was, in my defense, I actually thought I did a good job. But then near the door where I was aiming to kind of go past the house.
If the end result of this story was a good job, I'm not sure what to tell you.
So
I'd hate to have seen a bad job.
So the actual rollerblading was going all right. And then I hit that metal grid and slid and ended up putting my hand down and ultimately broke my wrist. Which, the next day when I was trying to put my shirt on to go to school, that, quickly found myself on the way to hospital because it wasn't doable. I weren't very happy. So that's one. There was obviously numerous incidents with kayaking. When I broke my leg playing American football, that was one of those scenarios where I was kind of looking at Angus, the quarterback, thinking, when something's just a little bit off, or you can sense that something's not quite right. And I was kind of looking at him thinking, don't throw it. And he threw it. And I was thinking, don't catch it. And I caught it. And I thought, right, run. And I watched this back on the tape. It took me a while to get myself into the headspace where I felt prepared to watch it back on the tape. Because I was like, when I did it, I messaged our offensive coordinator, Dan Smith. And I was like, is there anything that I could have done differently? Like, what could I have done? And he went, well, you could maybe try to run around the guy. And I was like, oh, fair enough. And I originally thought I got hit by 2 or 3 people. But instead it was just one guy. When I watched it back on the film, it was one guy. And I could have very easily run around him. But I had like tunnel vision and I thought, right, I'm going to run through him. And he probably weighed a lot heavier. He definitely weighed a lot heavier than I did. But, he won that battle. Bust my leg. So that was that. I should have run around him. Didn't. Kind of thought, I can push through him. Didn't. So yeah, it does definitely get me into trouble time to time, now and again. I would say I probably end up in quite a few more arguments in car parks, as we spoke about previously, than most people.
Not anymore. You're a changed man.
When you're correcting someone for driving the wrong way down a one-way system, and you go like, you end up when 2 cars are facing each other, and you just think, I just sit there and go, you need to reverse. Like there's 1 or 2 things that are getting out of this. You're either going to reverse or we're going to get out and sort this out the real way. I'm not an aggressive character. I know I am aggressive. I take that back. So aggressive but not violent. Like that's always a very last resort. It's definitely not first protocol. So it's being able to control yourself. So I've definitely...
There's another little gem in there for people. Aggressive but not violent. I think that deserves more credit than we gave it there. We sort of brushed past that. Just ruminate on that one. That's a good one.
That's a good word for you, that as well. Ruminate. Jesus. Yeah. So aggressive but not violent. And I think ultimately I do tend to rub people up the wrong way, especially if they don't know me. I've been told at numerous Christmas parties that I'm arrogant, egotistical, aggressive. I think you might have been witness to one of the conversations where...
Witness? I'm sure he collared me to let me know that he thought you were a knob.
Nick Johns, good man. But it's quite funny as well because that's actually a circumstance that comes around in the book. where people will choose the Christmas party to go and tell the red person, the boss, that he is a dick. That's definitely happened to me on numerous occasions. So, yeah, I do rub people up the wrong way. But and I think this is why it's good that we have this podcast, because now I feel like I can actually explain myself without being interrupted.
Listen, mate, you don't need to justify anything to the world. Don't worry about that.
But I don't need to justify it, but I need to explain where all of this comes from. I don't
think you do.
Chris, all I want is to be understood. That's it. All I want is to be understood. And
for anyone who's listening, I pride 60% of our time together, myself and my brothers, on pretending I don't understand deliberately.
So I think the main thing that everybody needs to know listening to this,
here we go,
right, is that I love everybody and I wish everybody well. I want everyone to live happy, positive, energized.
I don't get that from you. I don't get that from you.
I do. It's why I do what I do. It's why I'm a personal trainer. It's why, even when someone's a dickhead, I'll try and help them. And I always have like the best of intention. I always want the best for someone. And, sometimes I will say something. I will call people out on bullshit because that's just what I do. But it doesn't mean that I don't like them or I want them to fail at something. I want them to be better. And that's all there is to it. That's what it is. It's all done out of love.
There you go.
And compassion. Like if I give someone aggressive feedback, or my feedback is generally always aggressive unless I'm very self-aware and kind of deeply thinking about the information I'm giving back, which is quite frequent actually. But if someone does get aggressive feedback from me, it's because I care. It's because I give a shit. If I completely ignore you and don't say anything, that's your time to worry, because I'm no longer bothered. I'm no longer interested in helping you.
We're going to close out from there with a direct quote from Alex Lenkowski at the Profit 2019 Combine, whereby someone who was supposed to be sprinting a 30-meter sprint ran through into someone else who was competing, who was doing a 5:10.5 agility run, and completely obliterated their attempt, which was quickly followed by Alex Lenkowski shouting,
I don't remember this. What did I say?
Don't sprint through the agility run. The next person that does that, I'm going to fucking hit you.
Hey, that was out of health and safety requirements.
You know what? I get it. That was coming from a place of, I want you to be the best you can be. I get it.
I don't want people to get hurt or injured because of the stupidity of someone else. So the next person to do something stupid is the person that's going to get hurt or injured.
You know what? You did actually say that afterwards. Not directly afterwards, and not to the same person, but you did say that afterwards to the collective group.
Well, do you know, I'm glad that all these years on from that I am still consistent. I am proud of who I am right now.
Which is good. There's probably another underlying core principle there. Be proud of who you are.
Yeah, there's another podcast deep in there somewhere, but yeah. You have to, and without kind of getting all snarky at me, if you want to accomplish something, you have to love yourself. To push yourself to be able to do it, you have to love yourself. Because if you hate yourself, you've got to try and persuade the person that you hate to do something. And if it's, Think of someone that you hate, like your boss or a parent. Not a parent. Why would you hate a parent?
I'll Alex's subconscious is coming out here.
Think of someone you despise asking you for a favor. Are you going to do it? No. If that favor from the person you don't like is, right, can you get up for me? And this is where I talk about the body as a vessel for doing the work of the mind. So here, if you've got a relationship between your vessel, your body, and the pilot within that, and your conscious mind that's asking you to do all these things, if they don't get on very well, when that conscious mind goes, right, I want you to be fit, healthy, physically competent. So to do this, I want you to get up at 6 a.m. I want you to go for a 5-kilometer run. I want you to start eating vegetables. I want you to drink more water. I want you to cut your caffeine and, negate your alcohol intake. Are you going to do all those things for someone you fucking hate? Not a chance. So you have to kind of fall in love with yourself a little bit first to get yourself to do the things that you need to do. That comes first. The battle within your mind and that relationship that you have with yourself has to come at the forefront of everything you're going to do. And from that point on, the only thing to control is that, and maintain that process and go through the principles, no days off, don't quit, apply those to everything else after. But you have to sort out that relationship you have with yourself.
Plenty of pearls of wisdom in there. Obviously, there's the ones that we've simplified and clarified. If you listen closely enough to viewers, you will hear lots of others as well. Now, for today, we're gonna call that there because it's been however long. We have overrun slightly, but fear not, because there will be a part 2 where I'm going to ask Alex some stuff about how he goes about sort of prescribing what he would prescribe for competitive athletes and non-competitive athletes, i.e. general population people, in relation to nutrition and training. So if you want to learn a boatload of stuff about training and food, come along to that next one, because Alex is going to talk us through the ins and outs of that. And he has a lot of knowledge on that. So come along. No pressure, mate. No pressure.
See, do you know what? I don't mind this. I don't mind us having to break this into 2 because what we've gone through there, probably like 3 questions in an hour and 20 minutes, but we've gone into what I think is a reasonable amount of detail in each one. I've committed verbal diarrhea many times over. And, we are all about over-delivering, aren't we? So that's what we're all about. It's
at no added cost to anyone else.
Well, not just me, because I have to pay the bills to put it onto the podcasting. So, but that's fine. That's fine, because I'm doing this all out of love and compassion and wanting the best for people. And for everyone that's listening to this, you deserve it. Me and Chris, we are going to give you our very best every single time. So I hope you've taken something of use and value from this. Speaking of which, if you want to take action, if you want to move forwards, and if you're not already in our coaching program, if you would like to learn more about this and get involved or find out what it is we offer, what it is we do, we've done a very poor job previously of putting that out there and offering our actual services. We've done a very shit job of that through just being in the gym all the time and being committed to other things. We've done a very poor job, and we've held ourselves back and restricted ourselves and stopped ourselves from coming out and helping you in the masses. So what you can do if you want to find out more, go to our website, lenkohq.com, check out our 12-week program, or you can go back to episode number 14 and you can fill in the questionnaire there, find out what we can do to help you. We will send you personalized feedback videos based on that. And we are here to help you. We will serve you as best as we can, and we will provide you the best information we possibly can, whether it's sleep, stress, training, nutrition, your general mindset, breathing. We make that kind of our focus for every single thing we do. So if that sounds like something you need a bit more of, and you want to find out what we can do specifically for you, then go do that. Go check that out. Chris, I appreciate I've spoken a lot. I'm going to dial myself down now before I go downstairs. Any final notes you would like to finish with and wrap it up for the wonderful people listening and putting up with us and supporting the show?
Other than, I guess, the appreciation for all the people who are supporting us and actually listening or watching on YouTube, I hope you have learned something valuable from this. I know I personally have, and I've obviously spent a lot of time with Alex anyway. So you definitely should have some take homes if you've been paying attention. Try those initial 3 things he spoke about as his core principles, which we will have in the notes, won't we?
Yeah, we will.
Cool. Give them a whirl. Try them on. If they aren't you currently, try one of them on. See how it works. Expect mistakes. Learn from them. And as always, live long and prosper.
Absolutely. Oh, and let us know about your successes as well. We want to know what's gone well for you. We want to hear your success stories. So come at us with them. Anyway, we hope you've enjoyed the show. Thanks for tuning in again. We will continue to bring you the very best that we can. Until next time.
Lenko out.